So I am really glad you're here. Tricia introduced you to me pretty much. I have been teaching visually impaired and blind children and deafblind adults, and I've had a long career, more than 40 years. And for parents and grandparents who are here or watching the recording, I think visually impaired kids are some of the most wonderful kids I've ever met. And for professionals, say that I'm proof that you're in a great occupation. So keep doing what you're doing. I had a former boss who said, if you repeat things in a presentation, they're really going to stick. And so I'll be repeating Braille is not scary because a lot of people feel it is. And probably, maybe not the people are here virtually, but maybe somebody who's watching. I just want to reassure, because in my career, I did have a lot of parents who were just plain afraid that they weren't going to be able to keep up with their kids with Braille, or that they couldn't learn it. And I'm here to show that that's not the case, that it's relatively easy with your eyes, which is how you're going to be looking at it. So I love Braille, have loved it all this time that I've been teaching, and I see it as a code, not another language. And I think that makes it a little less scary too. If you think you have to learn a whole nother language, like if I'm saying you have to learn French, then I'd be quaking in my boots too. But that's not the case. It's really a code of the alphabet that we know. So I used to tell my students that it was a secret code, and that made it much more exciting for them. So the fact that you can read Braille with your eyes, so you can see on this screen that this is called Sim Braille, and all the letters are there. And the reason that we don't learn it by touch when we're helping people with Braille is that they would then have to take their hands off the Braille, and we'd have to put our hands on to figure out what might be a problem word for them. Whereas this way, they can just spread their fingers out. We can see the letters and say, oh, that's such and such a word. So that's why with our eyes, it's really much easier. And we do have cheat sheets. I'm going to have cheat sheets on the slides for you. And you received this little bookmark. If you have that out, that'll be helpful. That's another cheat sheet. And you also want to have out the bubble sheets that were sent with your packet, so you can practice with. If we were in person, we would be practicing on the Braille Writer, but this is second best. And then Tricia sent this wonderful marker that says Wisconsin Center. That'll be helpful too. Okay, so can't give a talk about Braille without giving credit to Louis Braille for starting all this. And many of you have probably heard or read stories about him, so I'll be pretty quick about it. But he was a very bright and curious young man. He did have vision until he was 3, and then there was an accident in his father's workplace, and he became totally blind. He really seemed unstoppable in his desire to read and write in spite of his blindness. He was born in 1809 and lived in Coupvray, France. But at the age of 10, everyone around him realized that he wasn't learning as much as he could in the public schools. He was really relying on just listening, and he couldn't read. No reading method was available to him. So he went to the Royal Institute for the Blind in Paris, which was 25 miles from his country home. And there he met Captain Charles Barbier, who rarely gets credit for sort of starting Louis Braille onto this journey of creating Braille. But he had a raised dot system that was for the Army, and they called it night writing. And he used 36 basic sounds and a 12 dot cell. And the current Braille cell is 6 dots, so much easier to get under your index finger, the tip of your index finger. But that was what gave Louis the idea that he could create a better code. And he did that. he figured it out. It took him 3 years to refine the code to the one that we know today, and many more years before it became widely accepted. People, as we've seen very, very much lately, have so many different opinions. And some people were making something called, I think it was called Moon Braille, where there were these symbols that looked like a half moon and a full moon, and you were supposed to remember what those symbols stood for. There are lots of other crazy ones. It's fun kind of to read the history of Braille, what people thought was going to be better than Braille. But finally, it was accepted, but it was accepted fully 2 years after Louis died. And it's a shame that he didn't get the credit for, for at that time for making Braille, but there are not too many people who don't know his name now. And it started being used in the United States back in 1860. So it's been around for kind of a long time. So I feel that Braille is very important. Lately, there's been a lot in the news about how many blind people are not using Braille because they prefer audio, or because it's not handy, or who knows why. But part of literacy is reading and writing. And reading, as we all know, can take us to different worlds that we totally love. And as we're learning it, we need to know how to spell, how to write, how to make lists. And without Braille, totally blind children really would have a much, much harder time doing that. And the people that I know who use Braille are so thankful to have it. And I think David Hyde, as a person, could certainly vouch for that. It's important in education, so to be actively learning with spelling, punctuation, creative writing, math, on and on and on. For independence, later in life, you need Braille to like label canned goods, cleaning products if you're living in an apartment. For job skills, there are electronic Braille note takers. So there are blind people in a huge variety of jobs using these note takers. So it's less cumbersome than carrying around a big Braille book. Obviously, for communication, awareness of the world. I don't think any of us haven't seen the labels next to a building that's ADA compliant saying, this is room 2029 and you're on the second floor, or this is a bathroom, all those important kinds of things. Office numbers, doctor's offices. So we really do need Braille, and this is a hard sell sometimes, but so worthwhile, so worthwhile. I forgot to say that if you have any questions, please do jump in. You can put them in the chat, and then Tricia will let me know, and I'm happy to answer them at any time. So making Braille, these are a few ways to make Braille. The slate and stylus is for sure the slowest way, but it can be very handy. They have slates and styluses that you can actually put in your pocket, and you could have an index card in there and jot down someone's phone number, a list or something, but it's just as it looks, that you're actually poking the various, the paper that's between that slate. The Braille Writer has been around for a long time, and I will talk a little more about that later. Braille Embosser is relatively new, and that can be connected to a computer, and that's the fastest way. And then the Braille Labeler is really, really handy for labeling cans and shampoo bottles and all kinds of at-home medications. So there's
Cindy?
Yes.
Can you let us know where, if families wanted a Braille labeler at their house, where the best place nowadays to get those?
I haven't checked lately, but they're usually in the catalogs, like the independent living catalogs. I can check and get back to you, and you can let people know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think when I was teaching, I know we got a few in Madison at the council. I don't know if they're still selling them there.
Wisconsin Council probably still has those. I didn't check currently for that. So
okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, because it's a great thing for families to have around the house.
It really is. Fun when you're learning Braille, to have just around the house, like put door next to the door and have the kids feel it. Yeah, that's a really wonderful learning opportunity. That would be an easy way to do it. I will check on that. So then technology came in, and this is a really good picture of a refreshable Braille display, which is what I was saying. This cute little girl has it in front of her, and those dots that are there go down and up in the shape of Braille letters. The same is true with the refresher Braille. So it's much less cumbersome than having a big Braille volume in front, and it does tell her whatever she needs to know on the computer screen. And the refresher Braille has been really fun for me. I teach a student who I had when he was in high school, and I see him now as an adult, and he has an iPhone, and it is by Bluetooth connected to the refresher Braille, and he can text me using the refresher Braille, which is just so cool. And he loves it. He texts many members of his family, and he gets the response by hearing Siri announce the response.
Dave Hyde has a comment in the chat saying you can also label using demo tape and a slate and stylus.
Thank you, David. Okay, now this is one I'm going to tell you throughout that you don't need to worry about some of these things, but you might hear the terms. So this is why I'm telling you about this, that the English Braille code was the accepted code for almost 200 years, as you can see. And that it would have a lot of initials, E, B, A, E. So English Braille American Edition. So that's the Braille that Louis Braille invented. In 2016, the code was changed somewhat, not a huge amount, but now it's called UEB, which stands for Unified English Braille. And why? Because truly there were as many discussions, or maybe more discussions than back when Louis Braille was alive, about changing the code. You know, change is difficult for everyone. And people, especially people who are transcribing Braille, they've learned all the rules and all the ways that they can best serve their people to create Braille. And now we're saying, oh, you've got to change that a little bit, not a huge amount, but a little bit. So the reasons why was, number one was globalization. So all English-speaking countries could have the same Braille materials. Another one was modern technology. In the older Braille, it's very difficult to write a website. Because of punctuation, numbers, etc. And now in UEB, it's much easier to do that. And of course, when Louis Braille was alive and for a long time after, there were no computers, so it wasn't a concern. And also flexibility, that it allows for systematic future adaptation. So if something else, even more tech aware, comes about, we'll be able to add to the code. So this is just for your, for your knowledge. If you ever hear those terms, you can know what they are, but it's not something you have to keep in your memory at all. So now we're starting with the Braille. So remember, it's not scary, it's just fascinating. So the Braille cell is this way, and the numbers are important. The 1, 2, 3 on the left side and the 4, 5, 6 on the right help to for you to remember and to establish the shape of the letters. So I will show you then. This is the Braille Writer. Interesting about the Braille Writer. It's been around for a long time, and back about 100 years ago, when I was in graduate school, this machine cost $125, and now it's about 800 and some. But for parents, grandparents, no need to worry about purchasing one because they are loanable to students at no cost. Just for interest, There is something called a smart Braille machine, which is electronic plastic. It displays sim Braille, which is the kind of Braille that I told you about. It has built-in speakers, headphones. It shows large print as well, and it has many languages. But of course, that one costs over $2,000. So this Braille writer, you roll the paper in like you would from an old-fashioned typewriter. And I know lots of our kids don't even remember what that was. So that's kind of funny, but you do roll the paper in, and once it's in, you can see that the keys are a little bit different than the way the Braille cell is lined up. So 1, 2, 3 is with your left hand, and 4, 5, 6 is with your right hand. The line down button is shown with these arrows. The space bar is in the middle, the backspace, and then the line return takes you back to the beginning of the line. So it's very simple, nothing like a typewriter where you have so many keys to get to learn. So here we are with the first 10 letters. And you can see on these that they are all in the top third of the Braille cell. And these ones, so I'll tell you, so you can see that A is in position 1, B is 1, 2, C is 1, 4, D is 1, 4, 5. So that's how you would push them on the Braille writer. And these 10 form the base for all the rest of the letters except one, and we will talk about that later. Oops. Okay, there's cab. And there's bag. Everybody get that? Was it easy, not scary? Okay, the next one, there's more practice. It's bigger words, but a lot of repetition. So again, your cheat sheet is on the top right, all the letters that are grayed out there. And you put these on your bubble sheet and let me know when you're done. And here's baggage. Everybody get those? Okay, so if you did, that means you're ready for the next 10 letters, and I'll show you how they're related. So the next 10 letters are the first 10 with .3 added in. I'll show you in this. So K is just A with a .3. Just added that one dot at the bottom. And the same with these. You see the relationship there? All of them fit into that pattern. So now we will practice. Maybe. Okay, now the mouse isn't clicking, but I'll try again.
Click on the screen.
Okay, there we go. Now it just shows all the .3s. Now we practice. Thank you. So another cheat sheet, a little bigger up on the top, and try these two words. So there's mop, and there's poop. I hope everyone got those. Pretty easy when you can use your eyes and you're not scared, I hope. All right, and a little more practice with those. Just a little bigger words. Let me know when you're finished with these. Okay, here are the answers. There's kite, and there's mittens. So now we go to the last 6 letters, and they add, mostly, they add dots 3 and 6, the 2 bottom ones. So show you how 3 and 6 is added. is the 2 dots added. But then W is an exception. Can anybody guess why? Put your guesses in the chat.
Oh, Dave Hyde knows.
Okay.
And Debbie said no clue.
Okay.
Lanika, you know why?
No, I should know.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay. You ready to hear why? So Louis Braille didn't even know that the letter W existed. It's possible that he didn't know, because the only time in French it was written was to write the names of foreign cities or foreign names. So he added W to the code much later, when an English friend suggested that he would need to have a W in there. So that's why W is different. So now we can try some more. Now the whole cheat sheet is up there, and you can try these 2 words. Here's the answer to wax, and here's the answer to fuzzy. Okay, now, so more information. Don't be scared. You don't have to learn these, but these are numbers. And so the numeric indicator, once you put it in front of a letter, it becomes a number. So you can see that number 1 is letter A, number 2 is letter B, just with that same number sign all in front. And that's really, you only need to know those first 10, because, obviously any combination that you're going to make of even a big number is going to use just those 10. There's also, you wonder, well, how do you make a capital letter? Well, you put a capital indicator in front, and that's a .6. And all of this you don't need to remember. You'll be able to recognize it when you see it in the Sim Braille. And punctuation is just in the lower part of the cell. I tried to show this by in the period, there's 2 light dots on top. Those are dots 1 and 4. So you see that a period is in the lower position. All of them need to be in a lower position, because otherwise, they would look like the other letters. Like the period looks like letter D, but it's lower in the cell and it's the end of a sentence, so it's a period. Again, not to worry. Okay. So now we have something called contractions in Braille. And contractions, when we're learning English grammar, are words like don't and can't, and there's just one letter missing and you put an apostrophe in its place. Contractions in Braille are more like shorthand. And so they save space and time. So you can imagine if all the words were written out letter by letter, it would take a lot of space. So the contractions are made for that reason. It makes reading easier and faster. And they're grouped according to similarities, so they're easy to learn. And they may represent a whole word. One symbol might mean a whole word, part word, or both. And they may use 1 or more cells as opposed to, just for example, I'll show you in the next one, the word knowledge, which would be very, very big, is just the letter K. So these are called contractions. These contractions, this group of contractions, are called alphabetic word signs. And so B stands for but, and B alone in a sentence, it's just spaced from the other word. So there you just need to know letter B is but, and you can see how that would increase your reading speed and save space. So lots of teachers call this the but can do list. And most kids don't have a difficult time just memorizing these, because they see them so often. In most cases, they're words that are used a lot. Knowledge probably isn't one of those, but it's a nice space saver. We didn't choose these. Maybe teachers would have chosen a couple other ones, but these really are used a lot. So I have just a fun quiz for you on the next one. No grades. I want to know if you can figure out what these answers are. So you will need your little bookmark if you have it, if you've forgotten what some of the letters look like, but the cheat sheet here is the but can do list. So the chocolates are delicious. And what do you think that says underneath it? You can write your answers in the chat.
Debbie has a comment that letter K should be no, K-N-O-W.
Yes, and she's right. There is a contraction, and don't remember this, but .5K is no, K-N-O-W. They, in most teachers' minds, they should have been switched around, but we can't change that. Okay. Debbie, do you have the answer to the chocolates are delicious? I don't want to make you feel bad. Who has the answer to the chocolates are delicious? No one? You want me to tell it? What do you think, Tricia?
No, don't do it yet.
Okay.
I think Lanika's starting from the bottom and going up.
Oh, okay.
Lanika, let us know when you have the answer.
Okay, because I think the first one says, but that's a capital letter I. And I'm trying to figure out the last two, but I like it, but I.
That's the one for some kids hate asparagus.
Okay, the chocolates are delicious, but I love it.
So the first one under the chocolate is a C. So C stands for can. So it's can. Then there is a capital sign for the next letter. That's .6. So you just need the one that's pointing up to the sky, like Tricia gave you the hint.
All right, Tricia, tell us.
Debbie or Christine said, can I have one ?
Okay, good. It's very close. Is can I have more? See that M stands for more. So chocolates, I know I always want more.
Debbie put down, can I have more? She got the answer.
Yay.
I think because those two are so close together, it just looks like 3 dots. And I'm like, okay, I need a space in between here, but I get that that's a capital.
Sure. Yeah, the capital. I'm sorry, I should have said that before because I showed it to you so briefly. That's my fault. I apologize. So last year, there were some teachers in the group and they cheated and got these answers very quickly. So that's, yeah. So some kids hate asparagus, but I like it. And Lanika gave the answer to this one. Are you done yet? And not quite. So you can see that it really, really saves space to use these contractions. And that was the point. I didn't want to frustrate you. But it's really, really fascinating that you can write whole sentences just with these alphabetic contractions. So then the only other contractions I'm going to tell you about are called strong contractions. And they're used very often. The reason that Linus is standing like this with that on the cartoon circle is that that's supposed to be shorthand. And it's just to re-emphasize that there is quite a bit of shorthand in Braille to make the reading faster and easier. So the strong contractions, to add the 3/6 to the letters P, Q, R, S, and T. And so that sign for and is just P with a dot 6. Q is 4. So that is all the dots in the cell. So it's really easy to feel under your finger. Of is with the dot 6 added to R. The is a dot 6 added to S. And with is the dot 6 added to T. So I have some sort of riddles for you, and I do have the cheat sheet at the top. You need to use the alphabet card just for a few, and there's no capital signs. So let me know when you figured out. And the pictures are kind of a hint. So who wants to tell the top line what it says? You can just jump in if you have it.
You and me.
Right. Okay. Next one. Anybody? You want me to tell?
For the fun of it.
There you go. Good. And the last one's pretty much a giveaway. Anybody?
With love.
With love. Yeah, we had fun finding that picture. Okay, so the rest of the talk is about information for you to continue with your interest in Braille. And all of this will be in the live binder. So you can refer back to it. I have found that apps for learning Braille are really fun. And these are just a few of them. There are really, they keep being made more and more and more. And this, again, you learn with your eyes, and you can then help your students or your children or your grandchildren with these. Some home activities. There are wonderful, wonderful home activities on Pinterest. And these will lead you other places. Like on the left where it says tactile activities for pre-Braille readers, at the bottom, that's created by Paths to Literacy, and there's just a wealth of information at Paths to Literacy. Now there are Braille Legos, which the letters are bigger than the actual print Braille, but still very fun, a fun activity for kids. Also on Instagram, if you do the @ITeachTactile, you'll find that there are several other teachers of the visually impaired who are on Instagram with lots and lots of ideas. So the creativity of these people is truly boundless. So that's really fun for you for activities at home and at school. This is a new slide, and I'm not sure that it's on the live binder because we added this when we got this game. But the first 50 people who signed up for this conference received the game, and that's what the cards look like. And they have all different tactile display, I'll call them, and they have names for the tactile, like rough, tough, was, fuzz, lot of dot. And I found as a teacher, and I think it's just true, that there are just seems like a limited number of ways you can describe a tactile feeling. And so they came up with some cute ones. So these cards are so fun that you could quiz yourself by moving them around and trying to remember which dot is in which place. So like I have two right here, if you can see my screen. Oops. I've put two together and I've made the letter B. So you can kind of quiz yourself with these as well. And it does say it's for ages 6 and up. So preschoolers, it might be too hard to play it the way it's described, but there's lots of other ways you could use these cards. So they're really wonderful. If by any chance you did not receive them, you can email Trisha and she can maybe help you get them. That's relatively new game and it's really fun. And the resources that we have, the local resources, of course, a wonderful place is the Wisconsin Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. There's a place, this is in Milwaukee, called ABLE, that's Audio and Braille Literacy Enhancement, and they make recordings and they're very helpful in a lot of ways. There's the Braille Library and Transcribing Service, which is here in Madison, and they have a very good amount of children's books, which can be taken out for up to a month. So that's helpful. Wisconsin Braille is the association that I am secretary of, and I'm going to do a little commercial for them because they give wonderful books for free. So I'm going to hold these up and show you. So this really looks just like any book that you could get in a bookstore or library. But inside, the gentlemen from the Oshkosh Correctional Center have put raised, it looks like contact paper, it's clear. So there's Braille at the bottom where I'm pointing to. And they are just beautifully, beautifully done books. And this is one, I'll show you just 3. This is another one. This is a lovely, lovely book. And again, if I hold it up, you cannot even see the Braille, but the Braille is on down here saying all the words. These are called print Braille. We also make some that are just Braille for the older kids. Another just beautiful book is this one. And again, the Braille, beautifully done by the people at the Correctional Center. They've had hard couple years with the pandemic so that the Braille production room has been closed down off and on when people weren't well, but they are back up and running now. And so if you look up Wisconsin Braille, on their website, they have the list of all the books that they are willing to give for free. There's a new selection now, but you can get the older books too. And all that we ask is that you have a $10 membership, $10 for the whole year. And you can get pretty much as many free Braille books as you'd like. So it's a wonderful, wonderful resource. And that's my commercial because I work hard for that organization. And then the Wisconsin Talking Book and Braille Library. Many of these resources you might already know, but you can look them up. This is, again, my advertisement for Wisconsin Braille, and the website is on this slide. Our mission is to get Braille materials for free out to Wisconsin students. It is limited to Wisconsin. And we have given books to libraries so that kids can go to the library and ask for a Braille book. Students, schools, parents, grandparents, family. We're happy, happy, happy to give books to anyone. The national resources are listed here. Seedlings is a very reasonably priced place to buy Braille books if you want to own them. But if you just want to borrow, there's the National Library, National Braille Press, all of these. So on the in the live binder, you can look these up. The Braille Writers are for loan. I put this information here, how your child or student would qualify to get them on loan. They're made they're through the American Printing House for the Blind. These are the people that you want to know in Janesville. Dawn, the outreach director, Tricia Wise, the most wonderful ever birth to 6 consultant, and Alicia Reganis is a school age consultant. So all these you can look up if you need them. The other places that you can learn, the Hadley School has a family education program with courses for sighted family members, including Braille, independent living, and advocating for blind and visually impaired children. The National Federation for the Blind has early childhood programs and a Reading Pals Club, Early Explorers and Santa Letters. And the American Printing House, which I mentioned before, has a virtual Excel Academy. And they did a lot virtually during these 2 years of the pandemic. They had some wonderful lessons online, and they're for varying abilities. And then again, if you want more still, there are some of these books with activities in them to help with, like Braille for the sighted. And these are places that have lots and lots of information. The Path to Literacy that I referred to from the Pinterest. WCBVI is an incredibly wonderful source. Texas School has so much on their website, and Perkins. So all of these are available to you when you look at the slides on the live binder. And I'm real happy you were here. I'm very open to questions, and I think David Hyde had something to share about NFB, right, Dave?
Well, a couple of things. I haven't looked at the live binders presentation, but one other place for Braille, print Braille books is the American Action Fund for the Blind. And they publish the Twin Vision books. And those are books that have print on one side and Braille on the other. So it's very, very good for families who are, reading to their children, where the child can, if you can see the pictures in the print, and the Braille is on the other page. And for those who are totally blind, the Braille is there so they can learn to follow along. And those have been around for a long time.
Okay, that's the American Action Fund, did you say?
American Action Fund for the Blind.
Yeah, I will add that.
And actually, about the Parents Division activity, I was going to ask Debbie Ming, who happens to be the president, to talk about that, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
Debbie?
Yes, our Parents Division is Wisconsin Parents of Blind Children. And we do a lot of different activities for families of blind children. So we have a cooking class coming up on Wednesday night, a virtual cooking class. And we're also providing families to go to the NFB convention in April. So we do a lot of different activities, and people can contact me at Debbie, DEBI_Ming, MENG at yahoo.com. And I can get you lots of information on some of the activities that we have planned for the year.
And the name of it of your organization again?
It's Wisconsin Parents of Blind Children.
Okay.
And we're a division of the NFB.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or anything to add?
Thank you all so much